Now, most times when you see CSMs with revenue of 2 million ARR, you're gonna hire some more people or move to digital. But you didn't do that, did you?
You didn't do that, did you?
You didn't do that, did you? Instead, you got in the hot tub with your girlfriend.
And once again, welcome to the Digital Customer Success Podcast with me, Alex Turkovich. So glad you could join us here today and every week as I seek out and interview leaders and practitioners who are innovating and building great scaled CS programs. My goal is to share what I've learned and to bring you along with me for the ride so that you get the insights that you need to build and evolve your own digital CS program. If you'd like more info, want to get in touch or sign up for the latest updates, go to digitalcustomersuccess.com. And if you have a question or commentary to be used in an upcoming episode, call us and leave a message at 512-222-7381. For now, let's get started. Hello, welcome back to the show. It is episode 28, and today I am so pleased to welcome Jeff Kushmerek to the show. And he and I, a couple of disclaimers, I guess, for the show. He and I are both musicians. There's quite a few musicians among the CS community. So we do spend the first, 5-10 minutes of the show rapping about music and doing a this or that on albums and just kind of having some fun back and forth. There was actually a ton of banter in this episode that I cut out, but it's kind of fun. So if you're the kind of person who listens to these shows for the CS content, there's tons of that in there after the 10-minute mark. But if you're in it for also the human element of it, after the episode, there's kind of like, I won't call it an outtakes reel, but I've left some of the banter in towards the end of the episode, just for fun. Why not? So Jeff Kushmerek, if you don't know him, he's very prolific on LinkedIn and other places. He's on all sorts of different podcasts, has his own podcast as well, and has basically been in the consulting game for 5-ish years with Infinite Renewals. Has a ton of great insight, lots of great stuff to say, super fun. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jeff Kushmerek, because I sure did. I have a fun activity for us because I know we're both music people, and I did actually. I subjected John to this earlier today too.
John's new song, by the way, is fucking awesome. I sent him a recording of me soloing away over his new tune. He didn't respond, so I'm like, I hope I didn't offend him.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But we have a little game of this or that.
Okay.
So if you're watching on YouTube, this will be easy to kind of like figure out what we're doing. But if you're just listening, I'm going to hold up 2 records at a time.
Okay.
And you're going to give me a this or that.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First pair. We have Peter Gabriel's So. And we have Steely Dan's Gaucho.
Okay. Not even hard for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I am not on the Steely Dan train. I am in they're amazing. They are, yes, they deserve all the musician fluffing that they get, but it's just not for me. If I ever get asked to do the Kid Charlemagne solo, I just pack up my gear and walk away.
Yeah, he's going to be in Austin, I think, next week. We might go see him.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I would. So, all right. Yeah, absolutely.
This one's, I guess, guitar-oriented. And we're going to go Knopfler, Dire Straits, versus Frampton.
Okay, which Dire Straits album is? Because that's a huge. Oh, Brothers in Arms. The live album.
It's the Dire Strait album.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I mean, Romeo and Juliet and all. Let's go the songs on that. What do we have on that?
Well, So Far Away, Money for Nothing, Walk of Life. I mean, it's all like good stuff.
I do prefer the early. I sound so bad saying this. Like, I prefer the earlier, before they were famous.
Yeah.
If I was to say which one am I going to put on and just like rock out and listen to, it's Talkbox All Day, Windows Down, Frampton.
Frampton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I might play some Frampton after we get out of here. This is, on my way to pickleball, and me rocking Frampton Comes Alive.
This next one is somewhat telling. I think this is going to be maybe divisive. I don't know.
Okay.
But we're going.
Hopefully, they're both Van Halen albums.
We're going Zepp 1.
Okay.
Zepp 1 to Back in Black.
Oh God.
Right.
First of all, both albums not a bad song.
True.
I'm gonna go with the Zepp.
You're gonna go with the Zepp.
I will always get the Let Out versus doing the. I love Back in Black. I mean, Also, which one can you put on in front of your kids? Because having Let Me Put My Love Into You.
Well, but kids can't understand what Brian is singing. Like, they don't understand what he's saying.
Are they like that? Have you seen the? I'm on a Bill Hader kick right now, and he does the sexy beast. Like, we're gonna do a job. Like, great, they're gonna do a job. Like, you're gonna get the like, don't you go run around on me, bro. Which do you go with on those two?
I got to go with AC/DC.
I mean, you're the drumming on that. Is that a Phil Rudd? No,
this is Phil Rudd. Yeah, this is Phil Rudd all the way. I mean, would a different Zeppelin album change your vote?
So what you're gonna say? Led Zepp 2 versus?
Yeah, or 3 or 4.
Well, no, 3. That's an easy choice. 4, I would probably put AC/DC on.
Yeah,
because it's just overplayed.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Physical Graffiti, though, I'm going to go with Physical Graffiti.
Okay. Last one.
Okay.
Because we should talk about Digital CS a little bit.
Eventually.
I got to, it's got to be a tax write-off. So I got
to pay the bill. I got to get that
talk about
microphone cover, so you got to pay for that.
Abbey Road versus Sgt. Pepper.
Oh, Abbey Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I will also say Revolver On, or as we say in musician terms, the drug albums, are the only ones I can really listen to.
It's funny because we're talking about John Johnson, had a very similar reaction. He's like, it depends on what kind of drugs I'm on. Which is very true. If you want to get trippy and just LSD.
From She Loves You, yeah, right?
Yeah. Now, the other question would be Revolver versus Abbey Road, because that's a hard one. That's a harder one for me.
I'd have to do a song-by-song analysis on that one. Again, you probably don't listen to Revolver as much. So, that's a hard one. Might still be Abbey Road. I'm also a big fan of the White Album. So,
for sure.
Yeah. Don't let me down is my guitar warm-up song. So
that's good.
I do a little jazz version with the Wes Montgomery style thing on that.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to my next question: is the awesome jazzy intro to your own podcast, which I love, by the way. Is that you? Did you do that?
So I did a couple of them, but I think the one that you're talking about, I can't remember if I did that one or not. I'd have to go back and look, because there was a couple that were part of Anchor, and I had been using them. And then one day I just picked up and I did my own one. So I can't remember. That's a tough one, but I can go into Anchor and find which one, because one is it's got the dot wave versus sure. Or something like that. Yeah, I should do more. I had this thing where I was going to just record these little pieces and snippets and stuff like that. But who's got the time, right?
Who's got the time? Yeah, exactly. Well, Jeff, now that we're 10 minutes into this thing, it's great to have you on, and I really appreciate you taking the time and
absolutely.
And it's always good talking to you.
Thanks for having me, because I feel like this is, and I mean this in a good way.
Yeah.
The NPR of CS podcasts.
Holy shit. I take that as a high compliment, and one that I am not worthy of.
You've got, first of all, just the voice and the calm demeanor. It reminds me of those two ladies on Saturday Night Live where they're like
The sweaty balls. Yeah, that's so good. I love it.
just, and I feel like I'm like a level below Joe Rogan on my podcast. Like one of those Rogan wannabes. Like I got camo on and a black shirt and I do BJJ every week. Like, that's how I feel.
That's funny. You don't have a red curtain behind you or a brick wall, I guess, Joe Rogan.
Do you want to hear something funny behind me? Hopefully he listens. Mutual friend, maybe. After I do one of these things, he does you can't see it on this screen, but if I was on the wide screen, there's two windows like that behind me. And he will do a Photoshop kind of like I just showed you before, and he'll show me if my blinds are misaligned.
I thought you were going to say he photoshops himself peeking into the window.
That would be nice too. I would take any of that. Yeah. So Graham, thank you very much. Yes.
So, I hate doing the obligatory CS background stuff, but I do. There's a couple things I do want to hit on. Obviously, sure. Infinite Renewals is 5 years going strong.
Is it? Oh my God, I'm so old. Started in 2020, so it'll hit 4. Oh no, you're right. I was consulting on the side as a side gig first, and then full time February 2020. So good point. Yeah, it was originally the old down with JKC. It was our super original Jeff Kushmerek consulting group. So, so we're now hitting another milestone. That's fantastic. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. And I really like your just some of the things that I've heard and seen from you talking about your approach to consulting is super refreshing. Just because you're kind of in it. You're not just like there to provide a readout and a report and disappear.
I was an operator and I'd pay for those things, and I'm like, Jesus, like I paid $15,000 for a quote. And I remembered saying that when I was first dealing with some of my first customers and everything, and they were saying, I'm not paying a discovery just to get another quote. And so really, I don't want to get too much into the selling, but I really made sure that's very clear. Like, yes, we can and will do the strategy stuff, but we prefer to roll up our sleeves. But sometimes we just need to get to root cause analysis, and it might not be exactly what you think it is, which is always, bad ICP sales. So,
yeah, for sure. Do you find I've in the few engagements that I've done, I've always found the role of consultant coming in to be one that is almost soap opera-ish, because you
I went into like a Spanish novella,
totally.
and then the what's that setting on your screen where I'm so sorry for everybody, the two people listening now.
Absolutely.
No, no, mira.
But there's an element of that drama, because I feel like when I've walked into those situations, I become the neutral third party where individual contributors feel strangely open, confiding things about their organization, about their leadership, about whatever it is that they would never confide even to their peers. It's like this safe zone. Is that your experience?
Yeah. No, it actually was told by a mentor of mine that was like one of my unique talent. Besides being able to stop productivity in its tracks on podcasts, being able to be serious on that. If you come in with the approach of can we swear on the show? I might swear.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
It's literally look, I don't give a crap about politics or anything. I have one goal here. It's just to find out how to make things better. And if you go in with that, I tell people, I do record them just so so I can get the notes down. I can be more engaged or whatever. But I'm like, this is between you and me. There'll never be a name said. Your this is a good thing. Your leadership said we want to make things better, and they brought a company like ours into, and there are many of us, but like you brought a company like ours into to help with that situation. And they realize if they open up and tell the real stuff, there won't be, penalties and ramifications and all those things. So I would never, ever, ever tell, unless it was something super divisive and I was, you have to make a decision on, stuff. But not like the psychiatrist and the murderer, but there are some strong feelings on X, Y, and Z. But you try not to tell your sources on
for sure. So, yeah. It's kind of like clinical psychology crosses with like journalism, like investigative journalism.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm not going to go down my. So you shot your dad in the face.
Yeah, right. So you shot your dad.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's Hader's impression of the Dateline. What's his name?
That's Keith Williamson.
Keith Williamson. Yeah, something.
Not to be confused with the other guy who's Josh Williamson, I think, who's kind of like Now, and I can apply this to CS. Like now, most times when you see CSMs with revenue of 2 million ARR, you're gonna hire some more people or move to digital. But you didn't do that, did you?
You didn't do that, did you?
You didn't do that, did you? Instead, you got in the hot tub with your girlfriend.
Yep. Hit the nail on the head. Hit the nail. So perhaps this is a good transition, or maybe it's just not a good transition at all, into my primary question that I ask everybody on the show and compile and all that good stuff, which is to say I'd love your elevator pitch as if you were talking to mom and pop about digital CS. What is it that we're trying to accomplish with digital CS?
Well, it does depend who I'm talking to in the audience.
Sure.
There was a quote, by the way, I think it was John Johnson, and I have it in my notes, and I put it in one of my presentations because he had summarized it perfectly. Yeah. But it was, digital CS empowers our customers to get what they need faster, right? Mm-hmm. And because if you think about the end game of what you need to put in place to make that successful, that's what you're doing, right?
I like the word faster because it denotes all sorts of things. Like faster encompasses you putting things where your customers want them, when your customers need them, hopefully serving it up, but also making it readily available. Yeah.
Now I've heard it described as lower unit economics. I've heard it described as that email thing. I've heard everything. But I think as you know, you've been through it. Everybody thinks they're going to serve, their lower tier, and instead, all your tiers, and maybe even a lot more of your higher tier customers who are super engaged and are always in it, wind up using a digital program, more as well. So.
Right, exactly. I think you're spot on there, and it's amazing in all the episodes that I've recorded. There is no one definition,
right?
There's like themes around certain things, of course. Like everybody kind of gets what the high level themes are, but everybody has a different flavor to it. Everybody has.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's both.
I think it's both, because at the end of the day, my takeaway is that we're all trying to roughly do the same thing, right? We're trying to serve the customer with helpful information when they need it, that in on a persona level. But how you go about doing it differs wildly depending on who your customers are, who your users are, what your tech stack looks like, what your data quality is like, if you own renewals or not. Like there's, in fact, I posted about it in LinkedIn the other day about the fact that I strongly believe that digital CS and those that are operating in this bubble of digital CS or maybe CS ops have probably the most variables out of any function that exists, just because you're getting data from all over the place. You're dealing with all kinds of different systems, different customers,
use cases, different customer
types, use cases, products. I mean, it's like all over the map.
I mean, I think it's a good thing to an extent where you're not just like just dropping a program in there, like, oh, we bought Salesforce, right? Like, it's like, no, we're going to create, Jay Nathan likes to use the term program. Like, we're going to put a program together, right? And that's exactly what it is. And we're going to put a program together to meet these needs that our customers that we're struggling to meet right now, or we're predicting we will struggle to meet. So
yeah, exactly. So, and part of what you do in your consulting practice is you're from what I get is you're really focused on clients who are killing it in sales, but are having trouble with plugging the holes in the leaky funnel, right?
Yeah, and not always killing, especially this year where there's a little bit less on the new revenue and there's more of a focus on current revenue. It's kind of like, let's ratchet up that that side of things as well. And, getting into the unit economics of things like we just kept throwing bodies after this and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And we know that we're looking at 2X in sales again. Does that mean we go 2X in CSMs? Like, oh my God, like that's not profitable, right? So.
Yeah. So when you're speaking with these customers, what I'm not going to ask you is at what point do you advise your customers to get into digital? What I am going to ask you is, what are the instances where you advise your customers not get into digital because they're not ready, because whatever doesn't exist? Like, is there an instance where you're not recommending it?
Yeah, I did that recently. See if I can sanitize make sure I don't say the names. And so that company had decided not to sell to that segment anymore.
Yeah.
They basically said, we're not going to go after the sub 25K, which I was like, by the way, like, there's nothing wrong with 25K customers, but regardless. And then they said, yeah, well, let's just do that email thing. And I was like, oh, do you mean like a digital approach? And they're like, right, we'll just do the digital approach. And I basically said, there's no documentation. There's nobody that's going to oversee this. You don't have any systems in place for that. In order to do this successfully, here's a strategy. Here's stage one, but you're not there yet now. But what they had wanted to do was just immediately move the CSMs off of that segment up into higher ones, essentially because they had some small early successes with massive enterprise deals and said, oh, we just need to sort of swing the Titanic in that direction. And I'm not so sure of that strategy or if it worked out, but it was a little, they weren't thinking, and that's why we were there to help them through that. But like that, I would not go with digital on this because they were essentially just going to say this customer base is just not going to be served at all. And they did not have the mechanics in place except for maybe an email to support. So not even like the support, success team triage email type of thing.
Yeah.
Not even that. It was literally like, it costs too much for us to serve this revenue for these customers. So we're just going to ignore them. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Monsters.
Exactly. Well, one of the probably most frequent questions that I get is, I know I need to do this digital thing. I just don't know where to start.
Well, they could start by contacting me.
Jeff Kushmerek. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But like, I'm sure you get that question. Like, they're stuck in this place where it's analysis paralysis or whatever, and they've got XYZ or they don't have XYZ.
Oh my God, you just reminded me of somebody I know who's got a lot of that going on. Actually, a few people I know got that going on. So you get down to the whys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you always have to say like why. In this day and age, obviously there's a financial aspect of it as well too. But I come from more of an efficiency and that customer is being served things faster. So
yeah, the wrong reason to get into digital is because you just bought a CSP for the sake of having bought a CSP, right?
I would agree. I would also say that the last thing that people do when they buy a CSP is launch a digital program.
Right, exactly.
They're usually like, can we just copy that play and just mark it to a different tier? Like, you can do that? Okay. Right click, save as, digital touch.
Oh, Jesus. Dangerous Tokens. There's a new band name, Dangerous Tokens.
Good. Yeah.
It's
We
actually
need
really
to
shitty.
we need to share our notepads of band names. I had 3 today, and I can't remember any of them. I have to write them down the second I think of them. So.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, my wife and I have that game. Like, band name.
And do you also get into band name versus album title? You know,
no, that's a good nuance though.
That was like after load in 3-hour wait time. That's when that game is usually played. Like, that's more of an album title, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like Sticky Fingers.
Like you wouldn't name a band Physical Graffiti. Well,
no.
there is a cover band named that now, but like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is that some of the most successful digital programs have humans really tightly intertwined with the digital motion, right? Yeah. And I think there's this kind of misnomer that once you go digital, you're eliminating the CSM or you're eliminating XYZ. It's like, it's like not, it's not guardrail to guardrail. It's like somewhere in the middle. And I'm curious to get your flavor and your take on what a good interaction between, digital motions and human interaction looks like.
For a clarification point,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got a segment that was previously serviced by a human being, and now that segment is currently majority. What I'm trying to get at is, are you talking about the difference between you might have a digital team, they're overlooking the digital thing, or the tier, excuse me, but you might also have an SMB tier and an enterprise tier.
Yeah, I'm coming at it from the flavor of like, look, you've got this team of CSMs. They're all doing this repetitive stuff and they're all trying to, check in with customers. We have this massive opportunity to take some of that stuff and to automate some things and to basically make the mundane aspect of it as automated and digital as possible while still preserving the CSM's presence and their involvement in those things.
Yep. So this changes for me, not to throw the classic, it depends out there.
It depends.
But, customer, MRR, what I like and what I actually literally just finished doing, like this week with somebody is for what was needed here. And I'm not going to get into what it was before, so that would take too long. But essentially, moved it to a model where, let's say you've got 500 digital customers in a segment, assign them to one person because there was they were getting about 12 inbounds a week on that, right? Yeah. So the thing that I would say is that instead of doing all the reactive and the firefighting, you are now, and I would say this to all the tiers, you are now being freed from your shackles to just work on the more high priority work. So in a digital motion, I would say you had some warning signs. So first of all, for this current customer that I'm talking about, that person's job is to move them into the next tier, essentially, right? Which can mean many different things, which is value articulation based on you can do a lot more strategic things. Like, I noticed from your website that you're trying to do X. If you use this feature, which unfortunately is available only in the next plan up or whatever, that's one thing, right? Everybody knows the other stuff. Health score goes down, launch some type of activities, step in, and things like. Still needed, not downplaying it. But I think there's some more strategic things that you can do, which is why I traditionally say, and apologies, I'm sure this has come up a million times on your podcast. I haven't listened to every episode yet, but I have listened to a bunch. So what most people do is that they think that they can hire a junior CSM, drop them into that spot, right? And then it's like, maybe, but do you have CS ops that can interpret things for you? And this is a couple of years ago. I don't know if you know David Epperly. He was my guy on this stuff. When we talked about that, it was like, right, we provide these reports to the junior CSMs because they would not know what signals and things to look for. This is a couple of years ago. Things hadn't matured as enough as they had.
Yep.
and so, I built up this opinion in my head that like you actually need somebody that's more strategic, so that and you might not be using generative AI to fire off that like, hey, I just noticed X, Y, and Z type of a thing where like, when do you interject that human into the process and say, looks like you're not logging in, right?
Yeah.
Or
Right. Yeah.
looks like all of your users aren't logging in, which to me triggers off they're trialing something else right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I on my digital team, I've pulled a couple folks in, but one in particular came to us from the support function, and because of that, he has this knack for just analyzing the shit out of an issue. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you get
Well,
this alert for.
there's no such thing as a corner case if you're in support, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But he'll go look at all corners of things and put together this nice little digest of like, here's what happened to get us to this point. And then, the beauty is he's got that strategic kind of mindset to go, okay, this is what got us here. This is the path forward, and then connect the dots with various people to make that happen. And you're right, like, I think for example, one of the things I've seen a lot is like, you pull BDRs into a digital CS role, which sure, I mean, I think it's a pretty logical career path, but if you want them to be like truly strategic about this stuff and really know the ins and outs of things, it's got to be somebody who has that, that next level up view of the
Right.
business. Mm-hmm.
Right. And because you also might get into situations where people are like, and I definitely saw this on some digital stuff where it's like, if they're not contacting me, good. Right. Like, where it's more like, no, we need some strategic things going on here. There was a situation where I was going through a team and we're doing the whole big book shift, as I call CSM Tetris. And, we pulled up every CSM's book of business and said, let's put 2 columns on this spreadsheet. Of course, it winds up being a spreadsheet, even though it's all in Salesforce.
Yeah, of
And
course.
it's like, mark the ones where they are there's no upsell potential. And you might have heard me say, like, me and HubSpot, I will never get to that $5,000 a month thing. They're happy with me. I don't need anybody to talk to me. Bob's your uncle. We're good.
We're
Right.
good.
The other one was level of interaction. Right. So for an easy path, which we wound up saving 1 FTE, we just had everybody mark those 2. Those were the easy move things in there. But I did notice from some people, when I had scrolled to the right and you couldn't see the revenue number, where they were just like, yep, digital, yep, digital, yep, digital. I'm like, these people are paying, they're on the highest tier, right?
Yeah.
They're like, well, I don't hear from them. So all's good, right? And I'm like, no, not right.
It's like, I was speaking with somebody else about support metrics, and we were talking about support metrics going into a scorecard, and the point we were making was 0 cases is not green. 0 cases is like,
no engaged users.
We better like check in and see what's going on.
Is the system working? Exactly. Is
like
our logging working?
Yeah, are there cobwebs on the instance? Like, what's going on? Yeah. You and I both participated in the Update AI workshops. You were in the DC event. I was in Austin yesterday. Yep. Which was really cool, and it was focused on CS and sales interaction. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
Thought it was very helpful and quite frankly much needed. Like, those conversations are just much needed, because there's any way you slice it, there's animosity between CS and sales at most organizations.
A natural sibling situation. Like, kind of back to your support metaphor. Like, I'd be more concerned if there was no. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, I thought those events were great. And I wanted to talk with you specifically about, probably a more tactical element to that, which is the classic, sales to CS handoff, because I think that there's there's a way of doing it that doesn't work, which is like not doing it. There's the way of doing it that's very human heavy, and you do handoff meetings and things like that. And then there's ways that are digitally assisted. And I'm curious to dig into a little bit of, have you seen motions in place that help with this handoff and help alleviate some of the pain around this handoff, and maybe
No,
some cool
absolutely,
examples?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I thought you were going to go down a different angle, so I was sort of preparing for something different. But yeah, and I actually just rolled out. I'm again, I think I had posted this thing like, "Go hug your RevOps person," or whatever. Because if you can work these things out, right?
Yeah.
But one of the customers I'm working with is a higher volume, lower MRR type of customer, but they all need onboarding, just because there's some technicality to it. And, we found some potholes along the way. You did your journey mapping. Oh, this is missing. This leads to X and things like that. And at the same time, because of the sort of faster paced transaction of sales, we couldn't, just, be having 30-minute meetings all of the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we found a nice middle ground on that. First of all, and this is part of the stuff I was saying at the big rig. So if people are there, they can just ignore this, but have the conversations with sales and be the sales whisperer, right? There's a big difference between the person who always complains about sales, like we were talking about, and the ones where you can walk in and just basically be like, I'm going to make your life a lot easier for you. Right. But in order to do that, let's just find a way to do X, Y, and Z. Right.
Yeah.
And so basically saying like, you don't like your phone blowing up 2 weeks after because nobody had been assigned, or X, Y, and Z. Our team doesn't like it when they walk into something blind, right? So let's find and you always want to know about deals going on and everything like that. Right. So let's find a way to create a little auto form that when something moves to closing in your CRM, the medic information gets streamed over into the next step along the way, into the next, it is good when you've got a CRM that is bidirectional and can push into the place where it needs to be. So in this scenario, it pushed to the onboarding platform, which is different than the CSP. And then we put a 15-minute meeting in place. Actually, no. Actually, there's no internal meeting on that. That also triggers off of Slack because everybody, we're trained to read the Slack and whatnot.
Yeah.
That gets a PM assigned and a CS assigned because CSM is still the owner, even though during the implementation period, you've heard my general contractor versus plumber speeches. So the CSM is the general contractor, the implementation is the plumber. My dad's a plumber, so for all you plumber adjacent people, like, don't worry, I'm not making fun of them. Right. And so that was all done automatically. And at the end of the day, there's a kickoff that happens, and the salesperson is there for 15 minutes to make sure all the information is there and it's read through. There's an expiring discount. There's X, there's Y, and then they can just walk away. But you avoid all the, well, John told me that we didn't have all that, right? So you avoid that stuff. So you need some personal. You cannot automate that unless it's like a system where you don't get any interaction. It's all, coin operated and things like that.
Yeah. Like product led stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I can go more, but I think that's probably what you're looking for. Like that, that helped a lot with the sales to CS process. Oh, so what were some things that happened? Don't fill out that form. Don't get your commission, right? Because it's just part of the natural closing process. It's nothing crazy or, it's just like, that's what you have to do. Yeah. And because the medic information's there, like then people will get the actual reasons why people are buying. So you don't get into that terrible, like, do you guys even talk to each other internally conversation?
Yeah. I think one of the commonalities here is, no matter how you slice it, no matter what you implement and how you hand off information from one system to the other so that one person can make the other person read it, in a more digestible manner, blah, 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 blah. There's operational rigor that's involved with all of this stuff. Like there's no way around ensuring that there is adherence, compliant. I hate the word compliance, but like compliance with the process so that it does run smoothly. And to your point, like, is there an impact on commission because it doesn't happen? Is there an impact on XYZ? Like you gotta incentivize the right behaviors in order to make this shit work.
Yeah. And so I talk about, it's funny because I'll make the connection if I can pull it off, is that my team came together and John was on that team. We talked about, it wasn't the sales to CS. We were told to like find a problem. And I think it originally started with that. But the thing was talking about when you lose your champion. And it's the same cadence. And you might have seen a picture where we had an up arrow and a down arrow. And that essentially meant that, you go up to talk to the business owners and you go down for the users that are what's in it for me. And that's essentially the same thing, right? You go up to the top, which is the sales managers, and saying like, how do we make your life easier? Like, I don't want my phone blowing up with all these things and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, gotcha. Yeah. And then for us, it's like for the people actually doing it, they need the information to get started and things like that.
Yeah. And the handoff thing too is, I think doing it in an organized manner and, and including all the information that's necessary avoids this whole like having to resell the solution post sale because your decision makers are nowhere to be found, right?
You just reminded me of something. When I got to my slide that had an actual picture of a sales handoff form, everybody pulls their phone and I'm like, you've never seen a form before? Like they're gonna send you all the slides. It's $5. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You're like, oh.
I was so shocked because suddenly I was like, is the president behind me? Like,
exactly. That's amazing. On a similar vein, I'd love to hear some experience that you've had or some things that you've seen around the interplay between CS and product as well. Because I think that's a commonly missed thing. CS
it's a huge thing. It's a big issue. It's a big issue. What areas? I mean, I have more of this that focuses a little outside the digital realm.
It's fine. I mean, it's like that whole element of look, we're privy to all this information.
Actually, I can tie this into the digital realm because this is the true story. I always apologize because my dad always repeated himself and like, stop telling the story about the big fire. Like I always feel like I'm doing that when I'm telling these stories. Like, what's
the story about the big fire?
It'd be funny, but I'm not going to get there. But so, anyways, there was a situation I was in where the CS team was having problems getting product to address any items that were brought up from low ARR customers, right? Yep. And they're like, oh, well, XYZ.com is paying us, and let's just say for orders of magnitude, $200K a year, right? And so when they say we want this feature, we're going to prioritize that over, and they would like laughingly like shit all over. They would like if it was like this beekeepers thing that I have here for my voice, apologize. They'd be like, for beekeepers, we're going to go build that for beekeepers. Like they keep saying it like, and so what we wound up doing is I call this the long tail of CS. Which is we put together this feature. We made sure, it's a drop down, so no free text and all that stuff. Like, what are they looking for? And we found that it actually was like 400K of low MRR customers accumulated that overrode this one customer. And then we're like, well, what about the G2 and all that? Like you piss off 15 customers versus one customer, like that whole thing. So I just feel like with product, you just always have to really go above board and overboard on the data, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I will tell you the most successful thing that I ever did. And Barry from Thought Industries, thank you for being an amazing CEO because he was the first one that really bought into this for me. And when he realized that we were losing customers, the churn was higher because of feature issues and developers saying, literally telling me, not my job. He made sure everybody had a retention KPI as part of their bonus OTE. Wow. And that's, again, we went to the sales and the carrot. Somehow money fixes all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like I got to do that because it's going to affect my bonus. And, you got the swimming pool we're putting in. So,
Sure enough, did. Yeah, sure enough, did. That's cool. I love that. Well, as much as I would love to like chat with you for another couple hours,
We can do that anytime. But I hear you. I got a pickleball match coming up. I got to go stretch for a half hour before that.
This sucks getting old, doesn't it?
If I can do 1 hour of activity, that equals an hour and a half of mobility work. Check.
Exactly. and tons of hydration. Yeah. What is in Jeff Kushmerek's content diet? What are you paying attention to?
This is when I tell you this, I knew this was coming and I was gonna try and lie my way around this because it exposes me for what I know you think I am, right? So I am a huge I'm gonna pull open my Spotify. I'm a huge reality TV junkie, but only certain slice. Okay, so I don't do the Big Brother. I don't do the dating shows per se.
Okay,
Survivor, The Challenge, Amazing Race, and I go deep. And there's always with these. There's two levels of podcasts, right?
Yeah.
There's sort of like, hey, they went in and they did this and this and that, and then there's like, right, so they did a 3-2-1 plurality vote where they split and I'm like, whoa, like, and so I go deep on those. I'm in the Reddit, but I'm looking at my current podcasts and shows right now. So I'm not kidding.
Yep.
You can see the orange digital CS podcast. I've got Gain, Grow, Retain in there, and that's kind of almost it. I do Update AI. Sure. That's actually in my iTunes because it downloads automatically. And I need stuff to listen to on planes, and that's that.
Yep.
And then I get like super hooked into a show, and I do rewatches of dramas, and then I do follow along. So I did Roycast for Succession, and I did Second in Command for a Veep rewatch, which is amazing because they've got Jonah and Matt from that doing that. And then I've got some. I don't believe in the general news sources, so I did this volunteer thing for a SEAL that died, Navy SEAL that died from my town here, and to help them out, I kind of got involved with that community back in the day. And there are some people that are former operators that are friends with people, and they can tell you exactly what's going on in situations with no bias, right? So I've got two podcasts on that. One's called The Team House, and the other one is Zero Blog 30, which is
clever. That's clever. Yeah.
So that's, you're probably like, Jesus, like that's
not at all. That's great.
What's going on in there. And then things will come and go. I've also do a lot of Conan O'Brien podcasts because at the end of the day, we just need to laugh a little bit.
I mean, that show in particular makes me. I've gotten into the comedy rabbit hole on podcasts a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed the limited series of podcasts called Strike Force 5, which was basically
I don't know that.
It's all of the talk show hosts during the writers' strike got together. Okay. So you've got the Jimmys, you got Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, you had Seth Meyers, you had whoever else, Colbert and
Brady. I forget Bill Burr is in the list there too. I just assumed everybody thinks I'm from Boston, so I listen to Bill Burr. So I do have a problem though. You'll appreciate this since we're on the content diary thing. I have this unfortunate chameleon type of thing. So if I listen to a lot of Bill Burr, I'm like, so go fuck yourself. I don't care. So
right.
But then like I was going into, like I told you, I had a QBR and a private equity meeting today and everything. So I was like listening to like the SaaStr podcast to make sure I was like into that. That's the other one that's in that auto download list. Cause I find those stories with CEOs and everything like that is just absolutely amazing and essential. Listening as well too, so I'm glad I remembered that. So
I love My First Million. Have you listened to that?
Oh yeah, but it's been a while. I think when you switch phones,
totally yeah. That's a real good one. Good one.
Oh, awesome.
One thing that I don't know what made me think of this, but one thing that lives in my head rent free is the Bill Hader character. We've touched on Bill Hader like 3 times today.
If you have not, to tie this in, I think I know where you're going. the first time Bill Hader was on the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend podcast, and they were talking old. So you go find that episode. I asked, and you can't find this anywhere. It's not on YouTube. You have to go listen to this episode. 5 minutes in, they were talking about how they both love old timey voices, right? And how like Conan had come up with the ahoy hoy for Mr. Burns, and then they brought it into like how. Alexander Graham Bell, like how obnoxious is that? He thinks he's going to dictate that everybody is going to forever for the future of telephone. You have to say ahoy hoy, and the person goes back ahoy, and then they without this being totally off the cuff, they started doing a booty call in that language. They're like ahoy hoy, fornication plea, but you have to go and listen to it. It's so funny. Yeah.
I need to check that out. Yeah. Well, the one Bill Hader moment that lives, or moments that live rent free in my head, is when he was Stefan on on whatever, and his writer would always sneak in like these things into his cue cards that he wasn't expecting, and one in particular, he kept sneaking in MTV's Dan Cortez.
I remember that guy. Wasn't he this guy on Seinfeld that was "Step up, George"? Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Anyone you want to give?
I think we sandwiched some content in the middle of that.
Yeah, we really did. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, like just people who are doing cool shit in digital?
Oh man, I there's some people behind the scenes. I just worked with Churn Zero. This Colleen from "You Know Who You Are." Like I'm trying to think so we're going to say the same people. Like anytime I've got like a gut check that I need, it's Dan Enos, right?
Yeah.
When I want to talk hardcore data, to talk about David Epperly, is who I go to for that. Again, I referenced this on some other stuff, but there's just so many people that are too busy doing the shit that they're not. You would know their names, right? And I'm like, absolutely. Kara at SearchSpring, like amazing, like she's the RevOps person I'm working with. Like, so there's just all these people that I could shout out to. I can't think of other ones off the top of my head. Those people are Angelina. I saw her out at Churn Zero, but her last name is escaping me. I see her face. I recorded a podcast with her on digital stuff. She for like 3 months straight, she was writing on digital stuff. I think it's Angelina Gabino. I can get that name to you.
Angelica.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
so great. Yeah. We've there's this new digital CS community, Slack community called DCS Connect, and there's all these people that are like operating digitally, but maybe silently, are starting to creep their way into this community, and it's a really cool. Awesome. It's a really cool place. Yeah. So well, look, I've kept you long enough. We've had some laughs. We talked about some cool stuff. Where can people find you, engage with you? What are you up to? All that good stuff. InfiniteRenewals.com is the website. My LinkedIn is, I think, the point, fortunate or unfortunately, where I post a lot. But we're doing a lot of stuff on the Infinite Renewals side as well. We found by request, we started selling our playbooks because, when you know what it's like to journey and then diagram and then, come up with what if you actually listed all those things out. And I had posted like a screenshot one time, people were like, can I have that? And I was like, we should think about that. I'm like, you want a Miro screenshot? You want to buy a Miro screenshot? Like for 5 easy payments.
Yeah. Here's my Stripe. Exactly. But no. InfiniteRenewals.com and LinkedIn is where we're hanging out. So absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks for having me. As I said, super happy that you asked me to join, and I'm in this stuff every day. Like I've got like 2 or 3 of these going on at once. So I'm like, feel like I'm up to speed on the digital stuff right now. So thanks for having me over.
Awesome. Yeah. I appreciate your time. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Digital Customer Success Podcast. If you like what we're doing, consider leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. It really helps us to grow and to provide value to a broader audience. You can view the Digital Customer Success definition word map and get more details about the show at digitalcustomersuccess.com. My name is Alex Turkovich. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Not to sound like I'm one step away from ordering an Avo latte, if you know what that is, but I had a lovely lemon alveoli thing that I used to put on this, and it's gone. It's totally gone. I got to go down to the place where I get that and get some more of that.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate the combo of turkey and ham, because
right,
you got your lean protein, but you got a little goodness on top of that.
Are you familiar? Do you ever eat an Italian sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my daughter works at the sub shop. It's a very good sub shop. It's known for miles and miles around. And she actually told me, I wish she didn't. I always thought they put like olive oil on it.
Yeah. No?
Vegetable oil.
Oh.
And she's like, I have to put so much on, it grosses me out. I'm like, oh.
Like straight to the canola.
Yeah. I used to have a character. We used to, we're talking coding days, like stick death, like during that time frame, where you would find an excuse to walk into there's four of us, pre-sales, post-sales developers. You would find an excuse to walk into one of their cubes eating fruit, so you could finish it and throw it in their trash can.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's funny.
We call it annoying apple guy, but there is really nothing like the sound of a banana peel being dropped, because you would always do it from high. I'd be like, hey, go walk in, you're like, hey, did you get that ticket? Yeah, I got that ticket. Oh, you got that ticket. Gotcha. Thank you.
What is it with, like, I remember this is back when I was at Dell many eons ago, and it was Cubicle City or whatever, and for some reason we had this rotten apple that kept being passed around. Like, you would open your drawer and there was this like 6-month-old apple, just like,
if anybody went on vacation, that is instant fruit in the drawer.
Yeah. What's the most egregious vacation prank you've ever been?
I think it's the banana. Well, the banana in the drawer is one of them. The other one is somebody left their this is terrible. Somebody left their laptop open. This is 97 or so. And it did, for whatever reason, a disabled screensaver or whatever. So again, can't say these things these days, but they'd be what was like AIM pop up, like was what we were using. Like they would be AIM popping the SDR team, like I like men.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And replacing the desktop image is a classic one too.
Oh, I mean,
that's classic.
I forgot all about that, and that is amazing.
I once left for 3 weeks. I think we were going to go visit my dad, who lives abroad, and I came back, and I kid you not, everything in my office was gift wrap. When I say gift wrapped, I mean like meticulously, beautifully, just curated gift wrap. It was like the case, my pens, each individual paper clip, like, and I was like, holy cow. And then the shock wore off, and I was like, wait a second, how much productivity would we lose to this activity?
At least you didn't get the glitter bomb.
No, that's just like, that's not even funny.
That's a terrorist act. That's a terrorist act.
If you spend any time in our household, you will know that I have I wouldn't call it a phobia, but it is a severe reaction, negative emotional reaction to glitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have that with the Loom bracelets.
Yes.
Yeah. Because my joke is that those will be in my casket. They will find a way to make its way in there. I'm glad I'm providing all this B-roll for you. This is fantastic.